On my right, we have Chris Goldstein, Board of Director, the Coalition for Medical Marijuana, New Jersey. On my left, we have Terrence Farley, former Director of National Drug Prosecution Center, former Director, New Jersey Division of Criminal Justice, and the former Director of Ocean County Narcotics Strike Force. All right, the ground rules will be that we will ask a question. There will be a 3-minute response time and a 1-minute then rebuttal. For this first question, though, we will have just a 3-minute response time for each of you, given that it is a current breaking event today. So we'll start with directing this to Mr. Goldstein. What impact, if any, does the Department of Justice memo regarding the investigations and prosecutions in the states authorizing the medical use of marijuana have with regard to this discussion generally that we're having tonight and New Jersey's proposed legislation specifically?
In regards to what we're discussing tonight, this announcement today is landmark. It's the first time that a White House administration has supported the aspect of patients' rights and the right to safe cannabis access in the 14 states that have some type of medical marijuana law. 13 states operate an active medical cannabis program, and Arizona has medical protections for a medical necessity defense in court if you're caught with cannabis. What impact does this have? Well, the Department of Justice today has directed federal prosecutors to reallocate their resources and to take a hard look at whether it's a good choice in their resources to prosecute state-authorized medical marijuana patients and providers. In March of this year, Attorney General Eric Holder announced that such a policy would be in place, and now we have it in writing. What impact does this have? This time last year, there were 80 raids per month in places like California on medical marijuana facilities. This month, there have been 3. This has been a major shift in our federal government's policy on medical marijuana, a welcome one in the eyes of advocates like myself. And it may signal that the federal government will no longer interfere at all with state-authorized medical marijuana programs, the impact it has here in New Jersey. It has long been an argument here with the opposition to medical marijuana that we would somehow conflict with state law. But as we can see now, federal prosecutors will no longer interfere with our program. So the concern there that passing our medical marijuana bill, the Compassionate Use Medical Marijuana Act, this year will not have any conflict with the federal government and will be able to provide compassionate, safe marijuana access for the sick and dying residents of New Jersey who truly need it.
Thank you. Mr. Farley, same question. What impact, if any, does the Department of Justice memo have with regard to this discussion generally and New Jersey's proposed legislation specifically?
Next to none. And the reason for that is most of the prosecutions in those 14 states where there are prosecutions are not federal prosecutions. They're state prosecutions. Los Angeles, the county, for example, has more medical pot dispensaries than they have schools. And both the DA and the city attorney, and most people here probably don't understand that in many states around the country, the city attorney is pretty much the city DA as well as the county DA are both against what's going on with the pot dispensaries, and they expect somewhere in the area of 3,000 raids that will be taking place in the next year or so, because their intent is to shut down these dispensaries, because every one of them violates not only the federal law, which they violate, but they violate the California statute, which is the most liberal of all.
Thank you. All right, the question will then go to Mr. Goldstein. What specific benefits do you see for New Jersey if the proposed legislation in the Assembly or in the Senate is ultimately passed?
The greatest benefit we're going to see right now with the medical marijuana bill is that patients will stop being arrested. Right now, we see this happening all the time here in New Jersey. Medical marijuana patients, people who choose to use cannabis therapy to alleviate the pain of cancer treatment, to alleviate the symptoms of MS, to help them through their end-of-life transition. They're arrested and they're put in jail. Right now, even though the assembly version has been restricted, it would offer serious protections for patients. We at the Coalition for Medical Marijuana advocate most strongly that the arrest of sick and dying individuals for choosing to use cannabis therapy stop, and that is the greatest impact it will have. Secondary, we'll create a state-authorized medical marijuana program here in New Jersey. You'll need a doctor's recommendation, and after you get your doctor's recommendation, you'll need to go to the Department of Health to get a registry card. But once you have your registry card, you'll be able to go to an alternative treatment center and find economically viable, safe cannabis access here in New Jersey. The other greatest impact is for law enforcement itself. No longer will they have to wonder if they are throwing a sick and dying patient in jail. When law enforcement encounters a medical marijuana patient in the future, they will have a registry card on them, they will be easily identifiable, state law will be clear, and they will not be arrested. We'll offer a new alternative healthcare system for this state. We'll offer a scientifically proven therapy for our residents. And again, the people who suffer the most in New Jersey will begin to see the biggest impact of this.
Thank you. 1 minute rebuttal, Mr. Farley.
The people like Chris, who I call drug legalizers, have for years talked about the thousands and thousands of people who are both in federal and state prisons because they had a minuscule amount of marijuana or they were smoking a joint. And I have numerous times in debates and commentary challenge them to get me a handful because they don't exist. There are thousands of people in our jails for violating the laws, including the marijuana laws. But those people are guilty of distribution of 500, 2,000, 10,000 pounds. Nobody goes to jail for smoking a joint
20 seconds.
Or having under 25 grams. It just doesn't happen. That is one of their, what I call, smokescreen lies.
Thank you. Mr. Farley, then what specific detriments do you see for New Jersey if the proposed legislation in either the Assembly or the Senate is passed?
It would make marijuana the only drug in the entire world that's smoked. There is no legitimate drug in the entire world that is smoked, and everybody from the FDA to the AMA to the Cancer Society to the Glaucoma Society all say it's not a good drug. It's not a legal drug. It is something that gets people high. And if I want to treat people by just getting them high, well, hell, give them heroin. Give them anything they want. That's all this is. We have had for years and years pills made up of what we call cannabinoids, some of the chemicals in marijuana. They've been for sale for years. Marinol, Dronabinol, nobody buys them because these people don't want a drug in the form of a pill. They want to smoke marijuana, and that's what, number one, what this is all about. And the second thing is, all they want to do is legalize the right to smoke dope.